So in this video, we're going to be talking about the first and the second generation PCCB rotors and how you can tell the difference between the first and the second gen, and then how to tell if it's been condemned or needs to be replaced. So first off, the very first PCCB rotor was introduced with the 996 GT2. The second generation was introduced with the 997 Turbo. And then, of course, the third generation, as we talked about in the previous video, was launched with 991.1, either a Turbo S or a GT3. So first off, how do you tell the difference between a first generation and a second generation PCCB? Well, the first thing is, if you're looking at the cooling slats at the very edge of the PCCB rotor, you're going to see that the first generation has about twice as many cooling slats as that second generation. If you're looking at the face of the rotor, you're going to notice that the cross drilling is going to be in a little bit of a different pattern from generation 1 to generation 2. And then a little bit of a difference from Gen 1 to Gen 2 is on the second generation PCCB rotor. There's going to be a small little circle all about 120 degrees away in distance from each other in about 1.2 centimeters, and it's going to be able to tell if the PCCB rotor needs to be replaced. Again, this is only for the second generation. It's a small little dot. When the PCCB rotor is brand new, you can hardly see it, but as it starts to wear, it's going to slowly start to turn blue, and that's one way to tell if the second generation PCCB rotor is condemned. Again, the first generation does not have this. Now, what are some other ways you can tell if the PCCB rotor is condemned or needs to be replaced? On the hat of the rotor, there's going to be a minimum thickness, and you can measure it with a micrometer, either on the outer edge or the inner edge, and see if it's below that minimum spec. And of course, if it is, it's going to need to be replaced. Another way to tell is if there's a specific amount of roughness on the rotor, and it's typically if it's greater than 80 micrometers, if the roughness, then it's going to need to be replaced. If there's any type of flaking on the surface of the rotors, or if there's any drastic size in any of the chips, like let's say there's a chip on the edge, if it's greater than 2 centimeters in width and greater than 10 centimeters in length, then that PCCB rotor is going to need to be replaced. So these are just some of the ways to tell if either the first or the second gen PCCB rotor is condemned. I hope you guys enjoyed this Tech Tactics. We'll see you guys in the next one.